Hi everyone and welcome to another pick a card reading. For today we have a very simple and straightforward subject, which is messages from your spirit guides. Today's reading simply gives your spirit guides a chance to leave you a message or to give you a little bit of clarity or to let you know whatever they think you might need in the present moment, of course more from a spiritual perspective than anything else. Before I begin the interpretation of the piles, I would just like to say that today's reading was a little bit surprising for me because, one way or another for all four piles, it was almost like the spirits just left a very subtle message in the sense that this is where they must probably be working on something. So for them, as in the spirits, your spirit guides, it is a time for action, a time for, symbolically weaving the threads of fate. So whatever is going to happen next in your life, maybe even in the very close future, might be actually a surprise, or it might be that whatever happens, perhaps a symbolic event, is gonna bear the true message in a very direct manner, which you will understand without a shadow of a doubt. So maybe this reading is just preparing you to expect the unexpected, or for other people, the apparent, quiet in your life right now is not so at all from a karmic or spiritual perspective, because there is actually quite a lot of activity in the background. So the instructions are simple as always. Just take a look at the four piles of cards for a couple of seconds or as long as you need to, and then choose the pile which sparks up your intuitive senses the most. The timestamps for the interpretations can be found in the description of the video, and if I don't forget, also in the comments below. With this being said, thank you so much for listening, and let's begin today's reading. Hello everyone who has chosen the first pile. Your cards are the Temperance, the Prince of Pentacles, the Six of Cups, and the Death card. Now before I even get to the interpretation, this is where you really shouldn't take the appearance of the Death card as something negative or, maybe literally, because this is actually the best kind of symbolism. Maybe some of you have a lot of planetary activities in your 8th house. For others, maybe you have a lot of planets in the sign of Scorpio, regardless of which astrological house it falls into. So anyway, this represents a transformation, an alchemical energy, or even if it's like a fated ending, that is something that you really need in your life, so don't take it as doom and gloom or anything negative. So first of all, your spirit guides through the Temperance card are suggesting that in the past few months and even the present moment, a main theme in your life was trying to find yourself, but not in a very profound way. This isn't like the big soul-searching kind of energy, but rather you actually try to fill in the small details, try to truly understand what your preferences are and why, perhaps. There was a lot of contemplation, there was a lot of, let's say, philosophical energy when you were really trying to think in the most elevated way. Maybe you had synchronicities in your life and you tried to interpret their meaning. You also had a lot of dual experiences in the sense that, small gestures or perhaps something that someone said, something that happened, was taken in a certain way, and then very quickly, life changed the meaning of that experience, of that happening. This is where you had sudden changes of opinion. Also, things which apparently looked bad or not very promising very quickly turned around, or maybe you cast a judgment on someone or a situation, and very quickly life turned it around and showed you that perhaps your judgment wasn't very correct. And this temperance card is also your preferences, what it is that you love more, what it is that is more important to you in your mind, and also especially in your philosophical mind. And of course, emotionally, you were playing with scenarios, you were playing with options, but this was a rather peaceful energy. This wasn't like very intense, and even the synchronicities and the events that happened in your life, which were dual, they seemed to be something and then turned out to be something totally different. They were rather small. I would definitely not say insignificant, but they weren't like big life changes or things which can impact your life in a big way. Maybe they impacted your week, your day, your mood for that specific moment. And overall, this left you feeling in a very, let's say, positively confused state, if this makes sense. There are things that might have confused you, people, situations, synchronicities even, and things that were just internal, your own feelings, your own reactions, your own even judgments sometimes. They led you to truly think about the deeper meaning of life, almost like everything that happens has a certain meaning, or everything that happens, even if it's very random, even if it's a little bit confusing, well, you have the power to attribute a certain kind of meaning to it. That is also how you kind of create your reality, like building a house, building a structure by laying one brick at a time. And even though this was, relatively peaceful, that is exactly why I said the positive kind of confusion, where the fact that you couldn't immediately see things clearly didn't leave you in a state of fear or, the dramatic kind of confusion. You just went with the flow, but at the same time you kind of felt that something is definitely going on in the background. Of course, from a karmic perspective, you truly sense that the universe is at work, but it doesn't really want to reveal to you what it's actually doing. And perhaps that was exactly what was going on in just the recent past. It was almost like the divine was distracting you, inviting you to place your focus, even your intention, your energy into, small things in life. And that is not something very specific to you. That doesn't really happen very often, because either you're a big dreamer, either you are like the philosopher archetype who really likes to think about everything in a very passionate way. And this is where this Prince of Pentacles, maybe this reflected in your life, even from a material perspective. Maybe someone invited you to help them with a project. Maybe this is regarding your work, regarding your job, perhaps your career, where you did a lot of smaller things, but it kept you busy and it kept your creativity ongoing. So this period was one of material progress, but in a very small way. But that doesn't mean in an insignificant way. And also what was specific, and perhaps is still specific to this period of time, is that you might have had a lot of recurring memories, a lot of nostalgic moments, where whatever was evoked from within you, from your unconscious, wasn't really polarized. Even if it was like a bad memory or something unpleasant that happened, perhaps a failure, or even if it was something truly wonderful, something blissful, a moment in your past when you felt really, really safe and prosperous and successful. So these memories weren't actually polarized. You actually perceived them in a state of neutrality, and you could make a lot of correlations that right now you are in a phase of a cycle which either is similar to what happened 12 years ago or 6 years ago. And it's not really the outcome which matters, but the calm before the storm. When you are actually distracted a little bit, you're focused on smaller things, again, the Prince of Pentacles, either projects, or you're planning something, or you're helping someone with their project. Something smaller but really progressive with your job or career. Or it could even be that there is stagnation in your job, career, project, hobby, maybe whatever it is that you're doing materially, wherever it is that you're investing your energy. But this stagnation doesn't come through as something negative, because you kind of find it easy to invest time and energy in a balanced way, of course, where you might not really have any expectations. You're just doing it in that present, you're living the now, basically. And even if it's not leading you like anywhere specific, like a big reward or triumph or massive success, you kind of still feel somewhat accomplished. You're just okay with it. And this is also a little bit unusual because you're a big dreamer. So this also points to the fact that there is some kind of very unusual calm before the storm, exactly the way things played out in your life either 12 years ago or 6 years ago, when after this apparent calm there was a massive change or a transformation, and this is the symbolism of the Death card. Now, whatever happened in the past, however this cycle played out in the past, it might have been that you've been living a very tough period, life was challenging, or you had a massive failure or a moment where a success or a breakthrough of yours felt very, very bitter, and the universe just turned it around into a very positive experience, motivating you to take a leap of faith, and a much more positive cycle began there and then in an instant. Or it could also be that you had the power, you found the inner strength, the wisdom, and everything that you needed, including materially, to end something in your life which was burdening you, or you got out from situations, people, or things which were upsetting you. For example, this can be like an end of a relationship, end of a job or career, or managing to pay a debt or some kind of deal with banks or finances which was really irritating you or making you feel that you have a massive burden which takes away your freedom, even if that was just a mental energy. So anyway, something really important happened which changed the tone of your life, regardless if it's an ending or a completion. What came after was a period of regeneration and rest and, just being able to live life on your own terms. So many synchronicities, or perhaps these recurring memories, you remembering certain people who were part of your life at that time, or even meeting them, seeing them on the street coincidentally, kind of led you to believe that something is preparing, something is stirring up, but it's behind the curtains. This is where the divine is truly at work. So basically what your spirit guides are telling you is that they already kind of delivered this message to you, and you already understood it, you already got the hint. So this just acts as a confirmation that yes, something is preparing to take place in your life. And whatever that is symbolized by this Death card, a change, a transformation, an ending or a completion. And it might have to do with, for example, something perhaps material and financial, like an inheritance, or something which you have done or invested into the past and even forgot about it surprisingly returns back into your life bearing fruit. Or there is going to be like a fated moment where you meet someone very relevant for your future, being at the right place at the right time. Or for some people, something that is burdening you in the present moment. And this isn't something short term. This is something that has been in your life for some time now, either a lot of months or even 2 or 3 years. And regardless of what it is, let's say a relationship, a contract like a job, a career which you just can't escape from, or a debt, or a living situation, or having to share your resources with someone, like it or not. Even if this in itself isn't negative, maybe you're helping someone, supporting someone, maybe you're a parent and you just need to be there for your child in every way possible, including financially, or your partner, or your parents. Whatever this is, from a very rational point of view, there is no way that a miraculous solution can come into your life very soon, and yet that is exactly what's gonna happen. That is exactly why you were distracted, why you were guided in a subtle way to philosophize, to find certain meanings in small events, coincidences, synchronicities, because it was almost like the divine making sure that you live in a surrendered state, if this makes sense, where you don't want to control absolutely anything, you just allow, and at the same time, you're also alchemizing, so the alchemical process within you is very active and ongoing. And it is exactly that hidden alchemy which was actually even hidden from you. Perhaps the biggest moments when you transmuted your energies was in your sleep, when you were resting. In your dreams, you might have dreamt very unusual things, very unusual symbolisms, and you might have looked them up perhaps on the internet. You said, well, this doesn't make that much sense. But that's how you know that the inner reactor was actually active and working on overtime. So something is gonna happen soon, either towards Scorpio season or the latest Sagittarius season. And even though, it is very unusual for you to be this calm, to keep this surrender state with such an ease, because you're not that kind of person. You actually have a warrior spirit, so you being as balanced as you are comes as a surprise even to you. But this is also how you know the Six of Cups energy, that your unconscious, your soul knows what is going to happen. So it has no reason to fire up, it has no reason to trouble you or to message you or anything, because it just knows that it's safe, it is just waiting patiently. So this is what your spirits guys have to say for those of you who have chosen the first pile. Thank you so much for listening. Wish you a blessed and magical weekend. Until next time, bye for now. Hello everyone who has chosen the second pile. Your cards are the Ten of Cups, the Ace of Cups, the Five of Swords, and the Ten of Swords. Now this energy is quite unusual because these depict almost a state of inner dichotomy, a very, very strong duality, where your mind and intuition are almost at war with each other, but this war is not the heated kind, so it is not like a depression or a vengeful anxiety or excessive worry and overthinking. This is more like deep inside of you, especially the intuitive part of yourself, through your emotions, maybe even your dreams, or maybe in that moment of your day when you are the calmest, when you have a few minutes to yourself, or when your mind is distracted. For example, when you do like routines where your mind is just on autopilot, your body is working, and you enter a state of contemplation, for example, exercise or walk or housework, shower, and for some people, toilet. And even I find this funny, there is a lot of truth to it, because when the physical body is eliminating, that gesture, that bodily function frees up energy. And for many people, that is a moment of epiphany. That is a moment of bright ideas. That can very well be a eureka moment. So anyway, that is not the point here. What actually matters is that in those moments when you just get in touch with yourself, either willingly or randomly, you have a sense of serendipity, if this makes sense. You can almost feel that something is there in the background. Of course, from a more spiritual and karmic perspective, you feel like some kind of blessing or some kind of bliss, good news, a moment of happiness, a moment of joy is fast approaching in your life. Most of the time intuition works in a not so joyous way. For example, it warns you of danger, it warns you of fake people, lies, deception, what not to do, or when you need something, it just guides you to what you need. When you have problems making a choice, decision, preference, it sparks up and guides you, helps you. So usually it's activated when it's needed the most. It isn't that very often when you actually pick up something really, really positive. Yet you cannot help deny that this is actually what you're picking up, and this isn't just one moment. This is where you have been feeling this for quite some time now. Maybe it all began the past 10 weeks, or maybe you received a very positive sign the past 10 days. Maybe you dreamed something and you looked up the interpretation and it was like really, really positive. Or perhaps you had a conversation with someone, maybe someone who you know and love dearly, like a family member, sibling, best friend, or perhaps even a total stranger, a cashier somewhere, a clerk or whatever, and you felt like the divine was speaking through them because what they said was really, really symbolic and meaningful to you, and very positive, of course. It can also be that you saw an example in someone else's life where you really, really related to that, and you might have asked yourself, is this what's gonna happen to me as well? Of course, all of this in the most positive sense, like a blessing came to them or something really good happened, and you saw yourself and your situation in that person. And basically this is the positive side of the story. Now the dichotomy and the inner conflict where, all of that is absolutely fine, but once you start thinking about it, once you start analyzing it, as in, what could possibly happen to me? What could possibly make me that happy? Or why would I possibly have this sense of serendipity when I know fully that I'm not really a totally expectation-free person? I'm not really embodying a Zen state, if this makes sense. And then immediately your Five of Swords, the analytical thinking of your mind, kicks in and starts giving you all the reasons why this sense of serendipity is an illusion, a delusion, wishful thinking, too good to be true, maybe just a positive kind of hormonal imbalance which instead of making you depressed, it's actually making you hopeful and stuff like that. Or it could also be the case where You get carried away a little bit by the magic of this feeling, but as soon as your hands touch the phone, social media, the internet, the remote control, everything that is out there right now just ruins this moment for you in an instant. And in this case, you can't even blame your mind. You can't even blame your thoughts from becoming a little bit aggressive, because the rational and logical truth is that everyone is in a moment of big difficulty, including, those people who have everything, including those people who are perfectly safe and have nothing to worry about. So, how would it actually be possible for you to instantly live the opposite of that? Now, for others still, this Five of Swords is not exactly the internet, or the symbol of the collective consciousness, but it's actually maybe a friend, an acquaintance, someone who you talk to or meet daily. That person might be going through their own difficulties, so you can imagine that their vibe and what you communicate with is not gonna allow the serendipity to persist for that long. Even if this person is not toxic or not bad intended, when someone's living hard times, hardship, they won't be all sunshine and butterflies, even if they don't communicate what they're thinking. But it doesn't really matter, because I do believe that this Ten of Swords, among other things, represents that you really want to stand from a place of neutrality. So you're trying your hardest to shut out both the serendipity and also the self-defeating thoughts, because they kind of trigger each other. They kind of play a game of chess inside of you with each other. Because don't get me wrong, when you have a really negative mindset, because something happens, something triggers you, etc., your intuition actually comes to counter that, and that is very, very unusual for you. Because that might have perhaps never happened in your life, when your intuition told you, no, it's gonna be absolutely fine. Don't listen to yourself. It's not that you are not this kind of person, it's more that the encouragement, the faith, the positive side doesn't happen automatically. It isn't like it runs on autopilot. You have to, actively get into that state in order to combat your thoughts when things are difficult. So what's actually extremely unusual about what you're experiencing is that the self-defeating thoughts are in a disadvantage right now. You cannot basically talk yourself out from believing that some kind of blessing or something positive is imminent to happen to you personally. And right now you might not even know what to do. Should you go with the flow and feed the serendipity consciously, as in place your faith, place your belief into it, where of course the big danger and the risk is this Ten of Swords. What if it turns out to be just an illusion and it breaks your faith? But you also know that you cannot give energy to the self-defeating thoughts, because it's very obvious what that will turn out if you allow it to dominate your mindset. But at the same time, you also find it difficult to keep it in balance, or to detach, or not to think about it, not to focus on, because it's simply a feeling in your heart and there is nothing you can do to banish it. And you might have actually asked the universe, your spirit guides, to give you some kind of clarity what this means, or why is this happening to you, what it is that you actually should believe from all of this. And this is where your spirit guides are telling you the following. This inner battle or dichotomy is so very active because actually both sides are right in their own way. Your intuition is totally correct in the sense that something positive is truly coming, but your mind, especially your self-defeating thoughts, are also correct in their own way that you cannot figure this out. This isn't the kind of situation or blessing or divine intervention or even, let's say, miracle which will meet your expectation. It is almost like a surprise. Now, what this means or how this can turn out is different for different people. The Ten of Cups can represent that this very big positive thing is not happening in your own life directly, but in the life of someone either who you love or regard as family or as part of your life karmically, and they will share it with you. And that is the joy, that is the bliss, that is the blessing. And it will truly matter to you, it will truly make you happy. But the biggest surprise, well, you can imagine that it is gonna be for that person. For other people, this is the energy of love. Now, for those of you who are single and looking, it can actually be that kind of love, a romantic declaration. Someone who you might not even suspect will offer you their love. And the reason you might not actually suspect it is because from the first second, if you even know this person, they were labeled by you that they're too good for me, too good to be true. This might never even happen in a million years, so why even dream about it? Why even give this chance a possibility to exist in your mind? So this thought was banished straight away, so you don't even suspect it. Or it could actually be a person who you once helped out, but you never even imagined that that help that you gave, regardless of what that was, really impacted their whole lives one way or another, and that returns to you karmically. So it might be something totally invisible to your rational mind. That's why only your intuition knows this. But for others still, especially those who are really not susceptible to romantic love, this can either be a gesture of gratitude, a great honor, or even divine love entering your life. And maybe it's not necessarily the way this plays out that will truly impact you, but what you do with this. Regardless if it's like love or something wonderful happening to a person who you love, a family member, a best friend, it doesn't really matter. What you will do with it or what it will do to you is exactly this Ten of Swords energy disappearing from your life. And what this Ten of Swords means for you personally, well, either you were not successful in the recent past or the past 10 months with something, regardless of what that is, and it left you feeling a little bit defeated. Or it can just be a psychological energy where you might have always thought that, well, miracles only happen to other people. Or, big things, in a positive way, of course, don't really happen to me ever. And this is gonna be a moment in your life when you will experience the opposite. If it was like a defeat, a surrender, failure, not being as successful as you liked it to, that situation will either turn miraculously around and you will get more than you thought back then, or that situation will turn into another page of your story. Or if you're living in the belief that miracles don't happen to you or they don't happen twice, well, this is the most positive kind of disappointment, because the universe will definitely disappoint you with this. And all this cups energy, tears will flow, and they will be tears of joy. That Five of Swords, so the self-defeating thoughts that inner critic is gonna be really, really beaten up this time. So this is so very positive. Because that Five of Swords, the critical and self-defeating part of you, will have such a really hard time from that moment onward to impact you in any way. This will not only restore your faith, but this will just shock you with divine bliss. And whatever happens will be imprinted into your memory for good. Just when, a trauma can hurt us so very much that it stays with us forever regardless of what we do. It becomes like a scar. Well, the opposite of that can also be totally possible when something so positive happens that it just stays with us forever and cannot be removed regardless of what we do. Like a beautiful tattoo which is there to stay. So basically this is what your spirit guides have to tell you. But when this moment will take place, that is not very clear. The tarot won't tell us. It can, either be October, it can also be the very beginning of 2022. It's not very clear. But, you might be sensing it intuitively because it's kind of near. You wouldn't be sensing it if it's like 10 years from now, if that makes sense. So this is your reading. Thank you so much for listening. Wish you a magical and wonderful weekend. Until next time, bye for now. Hello everyone who has chosen the third pile. Your cards are the Knight of Wands, the Four of Swords reversed, the Ace of Swords, and the Justice reversed. Now this combination of cards speaks perhaps to two totally different situations, but both have in common that very soon the time for action for you guys personally is approaching in either a legal matter, official matter, communication, business, transaction, or anything which kind of involves you either to sign a contract or terminate a contract or make a legally binding decision. So I'm gonna start with the first version because that is way more clear, way more straightforward. This Knight of Wands represents an action in the past that you have initiated. So basically it symbolizes your sovereign will and you expressing that sovereign will even from a legal or very official way. For example, it can represent a separation, a divorce, ending a contract, for example, work, you being part of a group, you sharing something with people, or in other cases, perhaps it's about you initiating a change of a contract. For example, if you deal with banks or you have a mortgage, for example, you might have asked for that to be reconfigured in a way that is more suitable for you, but it doesn't really matter what this issue is. You took action in the past, but that action was stagnating, as in your request wasn't processed yet, you were asked to wait, or you might not have had a very clear reply, so you kind of thought, well, that is possibly a no. Now, if it's like a divorce, either you might not have reached an agreement, or simply the ball in this situation is not in your court right now, so you did what you could, what depended on you, and you're waiting. Now, either way, this combination of cards represents the Four of Swords reversed. The stagnation, the rest, the waiting time is over. Ace of Swords, a very important communication or some kind of revelation which has to do with an official matter. So it's not like just your epiphany or your bright idea. Someone is communicating something to you that enters your life, and all of a sudden the ball is in your court again. Either you will have to make a decision, or if it's a final ruling, that ruling is not what you expect it to be because the justice is reversed. Now that doesn't mean that you lose or it's something negative for you. It just means that it will be like a compromise where both you and the other person or the other party will have to mutually give up certain things in order to turn that justice card around to make it equal. But it can also represent that if it's a court ruling, a final ruling where that's it, it is in your favor, but its execution, if that makes sense, is not immediate, so you get the good news, but that doesn't mean that it will take care of your problem now. Or if it's like, let's say, money or something having to be split up, which is being owed to you, well, you may have your justice, but you might not get your money straight away, or you might not get it in a big chunk. You might get it as, like, let's say, monthly payments, etc. So in this sense, it's not exactly what you expect, even though justice it will be definitely on your side. If it's like a mortgage or any kind of contract or deal which you already signed and requested it to be modified, or maybe it is like a business which needs support, help, or a grant, a funding from an authority, your answer might be favorable, but you will need to begin the work, which is complicated. So basically, in every case, symbolically, it means you get your justice, but it's not over yet. Now, for other people, this isn't actually rooted in the past. This is more rooted in the present or the closer future, where this Knight of Wands can represent your determination or your decision that you want to do something and you are willing to either take a risk or get out of your comfort zone and start practically working on, let's say, a business, a project, an investment that you're thinking about making. Maybe a collaboration, a team up. Maybe you're looking for a partner. Maybe you wanna take a loan. Maybe you wanna ask for grant from a bank or from an authority. It can also mean that maybe you're asking for a money, a fund, a resource, material resource of course, which you think is entitled to you. Like, let me just give you an example, it doesn't have to be this. Like an inheritance which isn't yours yet because the person is still alive. But because you need it urgently right now, you might negotiate or initiate a talk, a discussion, a negotiation. And you will definitely get a reply because this Ace of Swords is either you in a communication or information sharing way, just putting all your aces on the table and being very clear about what you want. Or it could actually be that other person or whatever the other party is replying, giving you an answer where they all as well put all their aces on the table. And when you kind of know the position that you're in, when you rationally, logically, legally, in any possible way, know where you stand from, know what your options are, what your opportunities are, when you can evaluate the potential possible outcome, the justice reversed, you make a decision. And the decision is kind of clear, because if the justice card would be an upright position, well, that means that you will have to weigh it. That means that you will have to experiment of what would work, what would not. Maybe consult the opinion of another person, a professional, maybe involve a third party situation, an intermediary, etc. But because the justice is reversed, it means that you will very soon know what you need to do next. But of course, this doesn't guarantee that it's in your favor. This just means that you will know yes or no, black or white. You will know if it's worth of investing, going through with your plan, or if you need to go back to the drawing board, if this makes sense. But you might be asking, like, this is like a legal matter. This is where it's only the rational mind that has to make a choice or weigh things rationally, logically. What does this have to do with spirituality, spirit guides, the divine plane, if this makes sense? Well, it's pretty simple. The spirits are telling you that right now you need to trust your instincts, the Knight of Wands. Because you will feel it simply in your gut, in your instincts. So not necessarily intuition, but rather the primordial self. You will know what the right choice is. If you feel very, very ambitious, and if you truly feel that what you are planning, what you want is gonna work. Well, even if this justice reverse means that it's a no, it's not the right choice, your plan is not gonna work out, it means that keep your ambition, don't give up, because another solution will come into your life, another plan. If you go back to the drawing board, very quickly you will have an even better and even more ingenious plan, because that Four of Swords says that the time for action is now. So it will not send you into stagnation, it will just open up your mind, your mental sphere, to an even more ingenious solution, the Ace of Swords. The divine is definitely gonna help you with inspiration, with communication, with different choices. So whatever it means, don't be discouraged, because there is absolutely a solution there, out there in the world, to whatever you want to accomplish, and that solution will come to you. Or let's say if this justice reverse represents that it's a yes, it is possible, well, it's a breakthrough for you, so don't be afraid of the what ifs, just trust your gut, trust your instincts, even if you don't know all the insignificant details, you have a plan, you have a will, you have an ambition, and you will make it work. Or if you fall into the first category, where this was initiated in the past, well, then it's more than simple. This reflects that even when human justice or communication, so to speak, gets blocked, because you ask the divine to help you out, at this time, when things are aligning right now, this is the moment when you will get what you asked for, the moment of justice, or when you know what your options are, when that situation from the past becomes clear to you. So this is basically what your spirit guides would like to tell you and help you with. Thank you so much for listening. Wish everyone a blessed and magical weekend. Until next time, bye for now. Hi everyone who has chosen the fourth pile. Your cards are the Sun, the Six of Wands, the Nine of Cups, and the Nine of Swords reversed. This is such a beautiful energy and such a beautiful message, because I do believe that you guys have been experiencing the combination of these cards, but in reverse position, where it was that Nine of Swords, which was the dominant energy in your life, perhaps the past 9 months, or perhaps since the very beginning of 2021, and the Nine of Swords. Well, what does it mean? It means depression, anxiety, it means like your worries and your fears coming to life, where it's not just that you're overthinking, you're stressed out, you're worried, is more like everything bad that you were anticipating actually happened. So you were in a really bad situation, and it really broke you down, it made you ill, you might have been suffering from stress-related physical diseases, or like a really vengeful depression, or it might have been a moment in your life when every single thing that you did was wrong, and it was almost like either people didn't get you, or you didn't get yourself either. It was like living a waking nightmare. Like, it was almost like living in hell, because the sun was reversed. That means everything was cloudy, everything was dark. The only thing heating you and burning in your life was your inner sun. And even a star doesn't have fuel forever. The Nine of Wands reversed. You did everything in order to achieve a breakthrough, triumph, victory, and you lived the opposite, almost like you were cursed or something. And the Nine of Cups reversed, that was perhaps the worst kind of energy, because it was like life at that time was anything but not your story. It was almost like living someone else's life, someone else's nightmare. Nothing in your life felt like it. You couldn't own the energy. It was so bad. But all of these cards are cards of action. So basically you weren't a victim, you weren't a vegetable, you weren't the typical depressed person. You were actually working so hard each and every day to turn your situation around. You were hopeful, you did inner work, you did spiritual work, you might have even went to a therapist. Or despite your hardship, you might have actually helped other people in the same situation. Or you might have been investing all of this into your art, creativity. It was like actually living a dual life where you almost were forced by circumstances to express the opposite of what you were feeling, but you were feeling the depression and basically the dark night of the soul at the same time, but you couldn't show it, you couldn't share your pain, you couldn't express your pain, you couldn't tell anyone. Maybe because this was the nature of your job, or maybe you couldn't upset other people, or maybe you had no one to share it with, but anyway, it was really bad. And perhaps the most negative thing about it was that it didn't really stem out of your soul. You might have had a dark night of the soul moment in 2019, and at that time it actually sourced from your soul. It was purge, it was like a psychological reconfiguration, it was like a rebirth of some kind. And with that, it was negative, it was hell, but there was always a light at the end of the tunnel because you knew that you were being reborn. But in 2021, it was like not coming from your soul, it was just coming from nowhere, from your mind maybe. It was almost like it was actually your body, your physical self, being so very challenged. Your soul couldn't control it. And that's why you might have felt that this just isn't you. But anyway, that was the past, even though you may not know this yet, because this is exactly the very core and the essence of today's guidance for you. You might have had a lot of signs or maybe dreams, maybe synchronicities from the spirit world that the sun is rising on your sky for real this time. You are at the moment of your dawn. You are at the moment of your victory. Nine of Cups. You are at the moment when your wish is gonna be fulfilled. But of course, something inside of you, and rightfully so, might say, well, I heard this before and look what happened. I believed in this before and look where I got. But this time it might be a little bit strange because it's almost like the signs or the messages from the spirit world, regardless if it's like synchronicity or your intuition or dreams or whatever, well, they are really, really insisting. They are actually telling you their own way that no, this time it's for real. And it's absolutely okay for you not to believe it right now, because what you believe doesn't matter. This is where you genuinely did the work already. So what you believed in your hearts of hearts in 2019, and the way you went through that dark night of the soul, that is what mattered. And at that time, even if you were in such a bad situation, you were genuinely full of hope and you dreamt big. And that energy which you invested didn't go anywhere. In 2020, it was simply blocked because of the world itself, as in the human collective, had a massive karmic moment. So your karmic moment had to be delayed. But it's not the same way right now. This is when you're genuinely heading to that moment of breakthrough for you personally. Now, what the cards and what the spirits are messaging you is, it's gonna be a wish fulfillment. But which one or in which form, maybe only you can tell. What I can say is, well, it's not selfish. It is not greedy. So even if it might have to do with your material life, it's not a life of luxury or prosperity in an excessive sense. Or let's say maybe if it's love or if it's a kind of relationship, it's really not the prince or princess coming down on Pegasus wings, but it's rather something based on profound trust and understanding. And also, this Six of Wands suggests that it is exactly your humbleness. It is like your Christ consciousness, whatever this means to you, and however this reflected in the recent West, especially 2019, that is going to triumph. And the Sun, well, this is self-explanatory. Being able to live your life, being able to own your life, every single area of your life where you are so overjoyed that this is your story, this is your life, it's definitely yours, and everything in your life reflects that which you are inside, good and bad. And that's why I said humbleness. You own the bad as well. That which is not ideal, you don't even want to change it. It's perfect the way it is. Like, let me just give you an example for you to understand what owning the bad and that being okay is. Like, let's say that you are the kind of person who loves more spending time with yourself, even if that is simply daydreaming, than honoring other people with your presence. And you might know in yourself, in your heart of hearts, that you don't compromise as much as you should, and you accept it. You're totally okay with that. As in, you are who you are. If it upsets others indirectly, well, this is what they have to tolerate within you. You don't want to change, why even change? And you are absolutely okay with it, because the downside of this, as I said, it reflects in your life. You might be feeling somewhat left out when people don't invite you to a celebration or a party. And you say, well, you're okay with that. You can process the feeling of being left out. As in, you deserve to feel that. It's absolutely natural and normal. It's not something you would want to change. And that as well contributes to your happiness, the Sun, because you simply are who you are and you are permitted, you're able to live it freely. But perhaps the main message of your spirit guides is the Nine of Swords reversed. You still might feel a little bit sad, a little bit, wishy-washy, not full of confidence, not full of passionate faith. But you must also admit that each day you are feeling just a little bit better. Sadness is one thing, and depression or severe anxiety or a state of constant fear and excessive worry is something totally else. So as long as you just feel a little bit sad, a little bit, not very cheerful, well, that is already a sign that you're healing. Your soul inside is actually quite calm, and your mind no longer like lightning bolts you, shocks you, sends you into a deep state of indisposition, if this makes sense. So this is how you know that you're actually healing, that you're actually getting better. And once that Nine of Cups moment appears in your life, well, you can imagine that even your sadness is gonna be, let's say, optional. Because, of course, the memory of what you've been through will not go away in a day. But when the source of the problem, as in the anxiety or depression or whatever, what caused it, because something did cause it, an event or something that happened in your life, well, that is no longer valid, that doesn't exist. You'll have all the energy and everything that you need to be yourself. So from that moment onward, you will have the steering wheel of your life, and you will take yourself to where it is that you want to go, perhaps in every perspective, both spiritually, psychologically, emotionally, and quite possibly physically as well. So your spirit guides are telling you that the reason why they insist with the signs or synchronicities or whatever is that the healing is real. It is really taking place in your life, and things are definitely gonna get better. So thank you so much for listening. Wish everyone a blessed and magical weekend. Until next time, bye for now.